The vanishing of Ding Liwai. It was a crisp September morning in 2005 when Hong Kong police officer Ding Liwai, a seasoned member of the anti-triad unit, set out on a solitary hiking trip. He had been looking forward to a rare day off and decided to head into the wilderness of Sai Kung, a remote part of Hong Kong's new territories. The air was cool, the sky a pale blue, and Ding, eager for the solitude and the peaceful nature of the trails, had ventured alone to North Tam Chung, an area known for its scenic views and relative seclusion. Ding, 47 years old, had been an officer for years, and though his work was often perilous and exhausting, hiking had always served as a way to disconnect from the stresses of his job. He had no intentions of getting lost. The route was familiar to many locals, especially seasoned hikers like himself. However, his walk, which had begun like any other, would take a tragic and strange turn. At 1 p.m., Ding dialed 999, the emergency hotline, his voice frantic, though still barely audible due to the poor signal in the remote mountainside. The dispatcher, hearing the urgency in his voice, did her best to maintain clarity amidst the static. On 999, what is your emergency? I'm lost, came the reply, panting as though Ding had been running or struggling to move. Wutepovan, Tseni King, 586, 487,040, 487,020, 587 something. 24. His voice trailed off as though he were unsure of what he was saying. I'm lost. The dispatcher attempted to clarify his location. What's your current position? Can you tell me where you are? Ding seemed to gather his breath. I'm near the trail. I think I've walked 2 hours from North Tam Chung. I'm near some markers. I don't know. I'm lost. The words were disconnected, and with each pause in the conversation, the dispatcher could sense the growing panic in Ding's voice. The odd numbers he rattled off were not standard hiking trail coordinates, nor did they match the familiar Izid on the Maclehos Trail, which should have been his primary reference points. A Vastal! These numbers, a 586, a 487,040, a 487,020, a 587 something, and a 24, struck the dispatcher as unusual. Are you near the Macleos Trail? The dispatcher asked, trying to anchor the conversation. Oh, yes, it's Sai Kung. I think I'm close to the eastern part of it, Ding replied, his voice trembling. The dispatcher felt a knot form in her stomach. She had heard the distress in his voice. Sir, stay where you are. Help is on the way. Do not move. Ding's breathing became more erratic. Help! He cried out in Cantonese. Help me! Help me! Help me! Help me! The dispatcher, now more urgent, shouted into the phone. Sir, stay on the line. Stay with me. The line went silent for a moment, only the sound of faint rustling in the background. After a brief pause, Ding's voice came back barely audible. Badoin, hurry, I don't know where I am. Something's wrong. The voice trembled again, and then, without warning, the call was severed. The dispatcher repeated his name, but all she received was static. The silence that followed was deafening. The search begins in the hours that followed. Police mobilized an extensive search operation. Over 2,000 people from various units, firefighters, police, and volunteers, scoured the hills, combing through every trail and bush in the Sai Kung wilderness. Search teams used state-of-the-art technology, including electromagnetic pulse detectors, miniature helicopters, and tracker dogs, to locate Ding. The operation spanned several days, with relentless searches conducted under both the scorching sun and torrential rain. The authorities traced the phone number that Ding had used to make the emergency call, confirming that the missing hiker was indeed a current officer in the police force. This raised suspicions that Ding might have been armed at the time of his disappearance, but investigators soon found that he had already returned his firearm to the police armory before leaving for his hike. This eliminated one layer of concern. Despite their best efforts, however, the search proved fruitless. Ding Liwa had vanished without a trace. As the days turned into weeks, the police began to grow desperate. A series of interviews with witnesses and further analysis of Ding's phone records only deepened the mystery. According to the reports, Ding had borrowed a phone at a local convenience store in Sai Kung before embarking on his hike. In the shop, several customers, some of whom were unfamiliar to the store owner, had been seen interacting with Ding. The police began to investigate whether Ding had been followed by anyone during his hike, suspecting that someone might have been stalking him. The mystery deepened further when a local villager recalled seeing Ding just before he disappeared. According to this witness, Ding had seemed agitated as he left the store, muttering something about strange numbers and having lost his way. It was then that the numbers, which Ding had spoken into the phone during his call, became the focus of intense speculation. When comparing Ding's numbers to the known email coordinates on Hong Kong's MacLehose Trail, the difference is stark. The MA numbers are systematic and consistent with GPS mapping, while Ding's numbers are fragmented and do not fit into this scheme, raising the possibility of them being part of another system altogether. Maybe he was bitten by a poisonous snake whose venom made him hallucinate so that his distress call was not coherent, mixing imagination with reality. The sequence of numbers Ding provided, the 186 of 487,040, of 487,020, of 587 something, and a 24 was unlike anything the authorities had encountered before. Though it sounded like coordinates, there were no markers in the area that matched those numbers. This deviation from the expected location format only led to more confusion. He was a law enforcement professional and was supposed to know the format well at least. Was Ding lost, or had he encountered something more profound? The cryptic nature of his last communication began to stir up rumors. There comes supernatural speculation. As time passed, rumors began to swirl. Some suggested that Ding had unknowingly wandered into a space outside of the normal realm, a place where the rules of physics and reality no longer applied. Online forums exploded with theories, ranging from psychological explanations to supernatural ones. Some users claimed that the numbers Ding recited were not simply random coordinates, but were symbols tied to an ancient language or even a portal between realms. These interpretations had no basis in fact, but they gained traction among those obsessed with the mystery of Ding's disappearance. One particularly bizarre theory posited that the numbers were as spiritual symbols linked to the concept of a lost souls. Proponents of this theory argued that Ding's frantic call for help and his sudden disappearance might signify an encounter with an otherworldly force, perhaps a force that took him to a different dimension. This idea, although highly speculative, resonated with those who believed that the numbers Ding had read out were some sort of key or passcode to another world. It didn't help that these numbers seemed to bear resemblance to symbols used in occult practices, and some even began referring to them as a spiritual coordinates. This led some conspiracy theorists to wonder if Ding had been involved in some kind of hidden occult ritual or had stumbled upon a sacred, forgotten site with metaphysical properties. Still, while many entertained these fantastical theories, the police remained grounded in their investigation. Despite every possible search route being covered, the outcome was always the same. No sign of Ding Liwa, no body, no further communication, and no answers. The vanishing pattern returns. Then on October 2, 2005, just a few weeks after Ding's mysterious disappearance, another baffling incident occurred. Yuan Zhiyong, a government employee, had taken a group of 3 young Girl Scouts on a hiking trip up the steep Sha Tin Mountain, also located in Sai Kung. It was a routine excursion, but just hours into the hike, Yuan and the scouts lost contact with their base. When they failed to check in at the expected time, an extensive search was launched to locate the missing group. 2 days later, Yuan's body was found. The location of his discovery was in a dense forest near a place known as Tiger Riding Stone. Strangely, the site of the discovery was only about 10 meters away from the original search area. Searchers had already combed the surrounding region thoroughly, making Yuan's body's discovery so close to where they had already searched seem inexplicable. This eerie coincidence raised a chilling question. Was there something in the landscape that made it impossible for the search teams to find him, even though they had been in the area? Was there a supernatural element at play, similar to Ding's disappearance, that interfered with the search efforts? The connection between Ding and Yuan's cases seemed too strong to ignore. Both were lost in the same general area. Both had odd circumstances surrounding their disappearances, and both cases defied logical explanation. Was it possible that some unseen force or influence was preventing their rescue? Or was it all just a series of strange, unfortunate coincidences? Theories about Ding's and Yuan's disappearances ranged from the plausible to the supernatural. Some speculated that Ding had become disoriented in the wilderness, exhausted by his hike and disoriented by the unfamiliar terrain. Others suggested that the strange numbers he had provided were part of a larger conspiracy or a set of codes linked to some unknown group or cult. Still others speculated that the numbers had something to do with an alternate dimension, a parallel world where the normal laws of reality didn't apply. The inexplicable proximity of Yuan's body to the search area also sparked further speculation. Was it possible that the search efforts had been impeded by some force, whether natural or supernatural? Had the bodies of both Ding and Yuan been hidden in plain sight, only to remain unnoticed due to some unknown barrier? Adding to the confusion were the reports of Ding's interests in esoteric subjects. Before his disappearance, Ding had spent time studying ancient Chinese folklore and spiritual practices. Was his knowledge of these subjects a coincidence, or had he unknowingly walked into a realm that his training had prepared him for, yet which his body was unable to comprehend? Recently, a survivor told his experience lost in these mountains, wandering in the woods for days, hearing voices he considers of otherworldly nature. His account and his conditions when he was found confirmed the validity of his story and further deepens people's paranormal theories. But this is worth another episode. The search continues. Despite all the theories, no one had concrete answers. Ding Liwa remained missing. His last communication, a fragment of fragmented numbers, a cry for help, and the sudden cutoff that left so many unanswered questions. The official investigation continued, but with each passing day, it became more apparent that the mystery surrounding his disappearance was far from over. The cases of Ding and Yuan were never fully resolved. The theories and speculations would continue to circulate for years, leaving behind an unresolved and deeply unsettling question. What really happened to Ding Liwa in those final moments, and why was he never found? Had he stumbled upon something unknowable and lost his way, or was something else at play? A force beyond understanding, waiting to claim him. In the remote hills of Sai Kung, the mystery of Ding's disappearance lingers still, an eerie reminder of the unknown.